The Baltimore Ravens rounded out day 3 of their 2024 NFL draft with 6 picks, making it a total of 9 for the entire event. We talk about what happened, who they picked, recap Baltimore's 2024 draft, all that and more coming up next here on this live edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, coming to you from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, or in audio form, wherever you get your shows. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the whole 9 yards there. Follow along, subscribe over there as well. 5 days a week plus more. We're doing this on Saturday here right around 8:15. We do Ravens content all the time, but of course, regularly scheduled programming is that Monday through Friday window. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn, it helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It has been a crazy couple of days here covering the draft. We've been doing a bunch of content. Literally every single pick, I was on a stream. We did Ryan Ripken show stream on Thursday night. I did Bleacher Report stream on Friday night. Ken McCusick, a film study, who's a friend of this show, did his entire stream today. So we're grinding away here. The Ravens, they make 6 picks on day 3. I'm going to be talking about each and every one of those here today. We're breaking them down in the first part of the show, then going a bit back over day 1 and day 2 and rounding out a full recap of the draft, and then moving into undrafted free agency. I wanted to let undrafted free agency simmer a little bit, and I think we have a somewhat substantial list. At least we have some guys who are going to be signing with the Ravens as undrafted free agents. So I see we already have some people in the chat. Really appreciate if you want to comment your opinions on the Ravens and what they did. I mean, look, it's there were some picks that were good, other picks that were not in terms of the fan base reaction. I think later, as the draft went later, there were some picks that a lot of the fan base did not like. We'll talk about all that here today. Dylan in the chat saying, what's up? What's up, Dylan? Appreciate you tuning in. And I see Shinobi saying they missed out on the last 3 picks. They think we could have had Haynes, Mahogany, Sautau, Limmer, Bo, Williams, Jacobs, etc. And it would have been better than a quarterback in the 6th. So let's start there. Let's first dive into the Ravens picks. And for me, let's dive into the first one, Tez Walker. Now, Tez Walker is a player. You look at those receivers who were available right at the beginning of day 3. It was like Javon Baker. Walker was one of those guys. A lot of people had Brendan Rice in the conversation. He went super duper late, though. And then who am I? I'm blanking on the other guy. I forget who. It was the big guy. I'm forgetting who the big guy was that a lot of people wanted. But Walker's somebody that is speed. He's someone that you want to use in that role if you're the Ravens. He's a speedster, a bigger-bodied player that can come down with contested catches, but he fits the profile a little bit. And Eric DeCosta said he wants to build a track team on offense. Tez Walker certainly gives you that. So I was not mad at the Tez Walker pick whatsoever. I know some people, there were a lot of people who really wanted Javon Baker on the Ravens out of UCF, but it just didn't work out that way. There was that mini run on receivers. But that 113 pick actually came from the Jets, that Morgan Moses trade. So it ended up working out for the Ravens there. In my opinion, I think that the Ravens needed, and well, there are 2 actually. First one, Ravens needed to add somebody in this draft, bigger bodied player, but the speed threat of Devontae Walker, I think, can give the Ravens another element to their offense where maybe you would have sent Rashad Bateman on those routes, maybe Zay Flowers on those routes. You now have a deep specialist if you're the Ravens as well. Oh, I just see a Blue Beetle checking in. Just got some news. The Ravens signing Bo Braid. All right. I like that move. Thank you, Blue Beetle, for dropping that. I like that a lot, actually. I actually have a couple of tweets out. Or I had drafts. I thought the Ravens were going to take him a little earlier. So let me try to multitask here and end up trying to do the show and tweet at the same time. I've actually never done that before. I've tried to dabble in it a little bit, but I like Bo Braid too. Yeah, Shinobi saying, yeah, look at this. We have we have a lot of people who are loving Bo Braid. Shinobi, Matt, Bo Braid is nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. I would have been fine with Bo Braid. Honestly, 5th round on, it was really good value. So, in my opinion, I mean, the Ravens, they ended up drafting Cade from Purdue, but I think that this, honestly, I just feel like they should have taken Braid in the 7th. And then, but the thing with undrafted guys, and I know we're kind of getting a little off topic, we're kind of doing our undrafted recap now, but the undrafted stuff, it has changed so much over the last couple of seasons where it's actually more attractive to players. Some, everybody does it differently, but it's more attractive for some if you're an undrafted guy as opposed to a 6th or even a definite 7th round pick. You get the choice of where you're going, right? You get that. But then the contracts that teams are handing out to undrafted free agents right now, there's a ton of bonus money involved. And we've seen a lot of the higher profile undrafted guys over the last couple of years get more money than the allotted slot of 7th round picks and even some 6th round picks. So in my opinion, honestly, teams might just be saying, going through the agents, hey, don't draft me in the 7th round. If I get there, I want to scope out the undrafted market. So that's a really good move. Braid is somebody that, I mean, there are multiple different undrafted guys I would have liked. Bo Braid was definitely at the top of my list. So that's a really good one. But let's get back. Actually, I'm going to put out my tweets here about Bo Braid. So I'm going to do this one. And then if you're familiar with my Twitter game, actually, I love putting in putting highlights from older clips of players. I started off with Deshaun Jackson, and it ended up being a meme. So I put out there getting a dog, and it's just a clip from a while ago. So that's my game on Twitter. Let's get back into the Ravens' actual draft, though. I'm pulling it up here. My computer is on its last leg, so I now have to use my phone for my tabs. So that's why I'm looking down. I apologize for that if you're watching live here. It's just it how it has to be. Now, this was honestly, I love the Wiggins pick the more I look at it, but the TJ Tampa pick was just such good value for the Ravens at 130. And DaCosta kind of talked about it a little bit, how for the Ravens, they had their eye on Tez Walker. That was a guy, and they said it with Wiggins, they said it with Rosengarten, but they did not anticipate TJ Tampa still being there at 130. Tampa was a consensus 2nd round guy, early 3rd guy at the latest. I think he was falling and falling and falling, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if anybody knows why TJ Tampa fell so far, but he's a really physical guy. He and Nate Wiggins together, they actually, funny story, TJ Tampa said that randomly he and Nate Wiggins were roommates, at the combine, I think it was. So that's a little funny thing there as well. And Shinobi saying our secondary and defense overall is so locked. I mean, let's look at the Ravens' updated corner room right now. It's Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa is your top 4 in the slot. You have Arthur Millette, Ardarius Washington. And look, if you take Nate Wiggins and TJ Tampa, right, and you say, all right, who was there last year? They essentially replaced Ronald Darby and Rock Yassin with TJ Tampa and Nate Wiggins. And I see Chris saying Tampa's 40 time wasn't great. So, okay, I guess he didn't test very well, and he must have fallen because of that. I wasn't exactly sure. Thank you, Chris. And that can be a thing, right? Testing numbers matter a lot in today's NFL to a lot of teams. Obviously, it depends on the prospect, but with that information from Chris there, I would assume that he probably fell due to the testing numbers. But overall, I mean, that's BPA right there. The Ravens taking 2 corners. I think now it's going to be very hard for both Jalen Armour-Davis and Pepe Williams to make the roster. I think Williams has a better shot to make the roster because he has more versatility than Armour-Davis. But Armour-Davis has been injured, and he wasn't very experienced to begin with coming out of Alabama. So it's going to be tough for both those guys to make the roster. But obviously, we have camp to kind of determine how that all goes right now. I see Rick checking in. What's up, Rick? I appreciate you tuning in. Matt saying would love us to pick up Tyrese Chambers, another super guy, underrated. Matt saying can't wait to see what vets we pick up later. Guys like Darby and Van Noy were great later signings. And yeah, I mean, the Ravens aren't done here, right? They still have a couple of holes. I was a little shocked they didn't take more offensive linemen, at least earlier. They took 2 overall. But I don't know. I felt like there were some guys they passed up on. But Rasheen Ali was the next pick at 165, a player that I think actually slots in very well with what they are trying to do with bringing Keaton Mitchell back. Ali is someone who can give you some of the skill set that Keaton Mitchell has. And then when Keaton Mitchell comes back, it's a lot easier to move him into the 4th running back role, a game day inactive. and then put Keaton Mitchell back in his role, whatever that's going to be. Now, we don't really know what the recovery timeline for Keaton Mitchell is right now or when he's going to actually be back. But for me, I do think that Ali is a guy that has some speed to him a little bit. He can run routes out of the backfield. He's a little bit on the smaller side. So pass protection, I don't know exactly how his pass protection is, but there were some other running backs I would have maybe preferred. If you're listening to me on Locked On Ravens, I was a big Kimani Vidal guy. That was someone who I was very interested in over the course of the process, and he went, I think, to the Chargers. So I guess Greg Roman just stealing all the Ravens and all my guys, apparently, that I want to be Ravens. But Ali was a fine pick. It didn't necessarily blow me out of the water or anything, but it was okay. The Ravens seemingly have a really high grade on him, and they've earned the benefit of the doubt. I probably would have taken a couple running backs over him, but we're going to see how it pans out. Now, Devin Leary at 218, the quarterback. This is a pick I did not like. And it's no disrespect to Devin Leary. It's nothing against Devin Leary. It's just the way the board was. There were still a lot of quality players. I don't know if Christian Mahogany was still on the board at this point. He might have gone at this point, if I'm not mistaken. But I would have traded, you have 218, 228, and 250. I would have probably traded at least one, maybe two of those 200 picks, plus maybe a later pick in 2025 to move up and get somebody. I don't know if that's Mahogany or whatever, but there were a bunch of players that I would have moved up for. The Ravens, yes, they needed a backup quarterback, but I just feel like they could have addressed this in undrafted free agency and not spent a 6th-round pick on it. Once Joe Milton went, I was really of the mindset of, look, they should just draft an undrafted guy, they should sign an undrafted guy and not really make too big of a deal about it. But they ended up making it like, and yeah, I see Matt saying Leary's the only pick I didn't like. They said in the presser, you won't even compete for the backup job. And again, when you're picking in the 6th and the 7th rounds, it's not necessarily about getting an instant, immediate impact contributor, but I don't know. I just feel like it's going to take a while to develop him. This pick also showed me that the Ravens aren't necessarily super high on what Malik Cunningham can do as a quarterback right now. Maybe that changes, but I don't think DeCosta or Harbaugh even mentioned Cunningham in the backup quarterback conversation. So we're going to see how that pans out. Last 2 picks of the Ravens, 228 was Nick Samick out of Michigan State, the center. The Ravens, they didn't need a backup center. So this does make sense. I don't think you want to necessarily throw Patrick McCary into that role. You want to have him available for all 5 positions. And then Sanosi Kane out of Purdue was the safety. Again, if they did get Bo Braid here, and that's what it's looking like, the Ravens should be able to, I don't know. I feel like, honestly, Bo Braid might have more of a chance than Kane to make the roster. But in my opinion, the Ravens they needed a safety. Maybe they keep both guys. That is a possibility where you could, if you're the Ravens, keep Kane, keep Braid, and then kind of void going a safety. So in my opinion, that's what the Ravens could do there. So overall, I really like the Ravens beginning of the draft. For me, I think the last 3 picks leave a little to be desired based off of who was still on the board. But again, those guys aren't necessarily brought in to be immediate instant impact contributors. That is more so on the other side. So if I had to give an overall grade, I'd probably give Eric Costa a B+ for everything. I think he did get some really great value. I loved how the first 4 or 5 picks went there. Last 3 or 4 was meh, with some picks in there that maybe I would have done differently. But again, you can't hit on everybody in these drafts. And look, not everybody's going to like every single pick, right? So I give Eric Costa a B+ for this draft overall. Coming up, we'll go back, though, look a little bit more at day 1 and day 2, talk Nate Wiggins, talk Roger Rosengarten, talk Adisa Isaac, and just recap the draft as a whole. Stay tuned. Plenty to talk about on this episode live on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by LinkedIn. And with LinkedIn, they have so many different things that they offer, especially, obviously, when it comes to jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools that help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And for me, I've had a ton of great experiences over on LinkedIn, finding jobs, networking, connecting. LinkedIn is great, and it makes it really easy to do all that. Plus, LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. They give it a month. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time and resources to hire. LinkedIn is consistently finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 215 million small businesses. Use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free on LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode of your favorite Locked On podcast is brought to you by the best meal kit service in the game, Home Chef. No more having to answer the dreaded question, what are we going to do for dinner tonight? Thanks to Home Chef and their chef-designed recipes that are delivered directly to my door, all pre-packaged, pre-portioned. They even peel the garlic cloves for you. And each recipe, one of my favorites, black and mahi, comes with a full page of easy-to-read instructions that include customization options and pictures to guide you along the way through the step-by-step process so you don't have to ask, is that what chard looks like? I cannot recommend Home Chef enough, especially right now, because for a limited time, Home Chef is giving Locked On listeners 18 free meals, free dessert for life, and of course, free shipping on your first box if you head to homechef.com/lockedon today. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. Yes, you heard that right. Homechef.com/lockedon. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
We're back our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still talking with you here live on Saturday evening, I guess, right around 8:30. Now, Nuggets game starting up. If you're an everydayer on Locked On Ravens, you know I'm a big Nuggets guy. So right after this stream is over, going to go watch that game. Hopefully the Nuggets win. I don't know. I feel like they're going to end up losing a sweep. I would love it as a Nuggets guy, but I don't know. I don't know if I can see the Nuggets sweeping LeBron twice in 2 postseasons. Although, look, I would love it as a Nuggets guy. Let's go back, though. Look at day 1 and day 2 for the Ravens. We talked about day 3 in that first segment. And then, of course, we'll go back to day 3 and round out what the Ravens did and where they went wrong, where they went right. So, Nate Wiggins in round 1. The more I look at this pick, the more I like it. You look at the Ravens, if they stayed put at 30 and just look at how the board unfolded. Offensive linemen went pretty thoroughly throughout the first round. But as I've said, and if you've been listening to me for the past couple of days here, once Tyler Guyton went at 29, there was no offensive lineman, or I guess offensive tackle, that I would have taken at 30. I think you had to look elsewhere, whether that was trading out or going to get a defensive player, maybe a wide receiver. Nate Wiggins was the guy. And in the NFL, what is the name of the game on offense? Literally, the Ravens take Tez Walker, and I said that. Eric DeCosta is trying to build a track team. Well, speed is the key. Nate Wiggins, 4.28 speed. For him, the issue for a lot of teams was the frame and the weight. 173. Now, he said he weighed around, 182 during his opening press conference and said that he didn't really eat at the combine and whatnot. But still, he's going to have to add a little more weight and muscle to that frame, but he plays super physically. He's somebody that is competitive, uber competitive. I mean, during that introductory press conference, all he was saying was, oh, yeah, I'm going to prove everybody wrong that passed over me. Like, this is a guy that has that Ravens mentality. Ball hawk, only 3 interceptions during his 3 years at Clemson. He slots in really nicely in a 3-corner rotation with Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Stevens, and obviously Wiggins being the third part of that. But now TJ Tampa also gets added to that as well. So I'm really glad the Ravens double dipped there and got that BPA value. And I think Wiggins and Tampa actually play really well off of one another. So again, some people weren't necessarily super excited about it, but the more I've looked at it, the more I really, really like it. And in my opinion, I do think that Wiggins is going to be one of the better corners coming out of this draft class. There are a lot of talented guys, though. I mean, Cooper DeJean, obviously, and then you have Terrion Arnold, Kenyon Mitchell. So there are a lot there as well. Then you have Roger Rosengarten, who was the 2nd-round pick for the Ravens. Now, it was between Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU and Roger Rosengarten. It felt like to me, I would have taken Kingsley by a hair just because I think for me, his skill set fits a little bit better. But then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, what do the Ravens value? You look at how the Ravens offensive line, they have a key opportunity to kind of shape their line now the way that they want. And I feel like Baltimore wants athletes on that line. Rosengarten doesn't have the biggest frame in the world. I think he stands at 6'7", 6'8", 308 is what I remember. But 308 is the key there. Doesn't have a ton of sand in the pants in terms of his anchor. His anchor is only necessarily average, but his hand placement is good. 33.5-inch arms. And to me, this is a guy that can move and pull out in space, the foot speed aspect as well. So again, can he beef up a little bit? That's going to be one of the bigger questions as he gets further down into his career. But I see here, Stat Padford saying could have traded out and took Max Melton later. And that's the thing. There was a run on corners after Nate Wiggins went. you saw a bunch of guys go early in that second round as well. And Chris saying the Ravens love tall, fast corners who can play man. They 100% do. I see Matt saying Jokic would be a beast on the offensive line. Jokic would be crazy on an offensive line. But actually, he is more in shape. Jokic is more in shape than people give him credit for. He runs up and down that court. He's a big dude, though. So I don't know what position he would play, honestly. But to me, Rosengarten is a player that I was, again, Kingsley by a hair. It's not like I didn't like the Rosengarten pick, but I just feel like, again, he has to be able to anchor against some of these power rushers in the NFL, and that might be a little challenging going up against players if they want to put Myles Garrett on that side and he just bowls through them on the edge. So we're going to see how he holds up there. I mean, I'm betting that he's going to be the plug-and-play guy for them on the right side in year one. But the good thing about Rosengarten is he has the versatility as well. So he can, if Ronnie Stanley, we know he chopped off that last year on his contract. If Ronnie Stanley ends up leaving Baltimore, he doesn't resign, he goes elsewhere, Rosengarten has experience playing left tackle, so you could move him over there, and it's not going to be this whole spectacle of he's never played there before, he has to relearn everything. I mean, he's already done it. He's already learned, and he knows how to play both positions, so that versatility also very valuable. Then, Adisa Isaac out of Penn State, really good value pick for the Ravens. I love it in terms of value. Positionally, I probably would have gone a couple of other places, but you look at the value, I mean, this is a BPA pick all the way. Right? For me, Baltimore has a bunch of different options, a bunch of different needs. The reason we talked about how many needs they have is because they had 20 plus free agents. So edge was still a need for them. I'm not saying it wasn't, but to me, I lowered it on my tier list of needs because Kyle Van Noy came back. So to me, Isaac, could they have spent a later pick? I think I saw a comment about Javon Solomon earlier. You could have spent a fourth, fifth rounder. I forget where Solomon went, but you could have spent him over there. But Isaac is someone who does have a lot of potential, bull rush, really good win rate numbers, and a couple other things. But in my opinion, the value is awesome. The position, I maybe would have gone somewhere else, but I still like the pick as a whole, right? I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying positionally could have been a little bit different there. I see Joe check it in. He said he made it drinking his apple juice, watching my guy KO. I'm a big apple juice guy, Joe. You know that. I revealed that. So glad you. I hope you got some Mott's over there. That is the big brand apple juice. Shinobi saying, what veterans could we still sign to the offensive line? That is a good question. Now the Ravens, they signed Josh Jones early. I think a lot of people are wondering about, could that be their John Simpson on the offensive line? I'm going to look it up again. My computer cannot handle it anymore, so I'm doing it on my phone. I need new equipment, and for Joe, Rick, anybody who watches me on Ryan Ripken, they know Ryan also needs a new computer. Ryan and I both are struggling in the computer department. It can barely run the stream, but it's going pretty well. Right? You can see me, you can hear me. But I think the Ravens will be in the market for a veteran offensive lineman. Let's see. Let's pull it up here on SpoTrack. I think there are a couple of options that could end up working, but I don't know what the Ravens would do because they might have to make a tough decision already in terms of, do they have to cut Salah at this point? Are they going to have to move from another guy? So let's see. I think Dwayne Brown is still a free agent. Connor Williams is apparently still a free agent here. Oh, wait. I think it just updated for me. Yeah, Connor Williams apparently is still a free agent, but they just drafted their backup center. So, yeah, they're going to – no, wait. No, yeah, these guys are all available. I think Charles Leno, Mark Lewinsky, Brian Allen, Mekhi Becton is a name that a lot of people are looking at. Donovan Smith from Kansas City. Dalton Reisner is a guy that a lot of people are looking at potentially. So there are options if you want. Chris Hubbard, former Steelers tackle, Cam Irving, who is bounced around, Pat Eiflin. Names don't necessarily blow you out of the water or anything. Mark Lewinsky, Andres Pete. David Bakhtiari, I think, is still a free agent, it looks like. So there are some options, but I don't know. Maybe they feel good with what they have. I would probably add a veteran, but we're going to see what happens there. So overall, I think the Ravens did a solid job in the draft. I'm not saying that, every pick was perfect. Again, I probably wouldn't have taken Devin Leary, would have maybe went a couple different directions later in the draft, but early, I give Eric DeCosta probably an A- or an A. Later, it's maybe more around a C+. So I think overall is a very balanced draft. Again, I'll give it a B plus as a whole. Coming up, though, we're going to be talking about undrafted free agents. Obviously, the topic of that's going to be mostly Beau Brade. We're going to dive into a couple other guys as well who have reportedly been signed. Get the latest updates in with that at the time of this recording. Stay tuned. Plenty to talk about here on this live edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show was brought to you by Monopoly Go. And with Monopoly Go and honestly all other games, I've been told I'm a competitive person, and it definitely is true. I do have a competitive side. We all do. My competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. Now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself, and the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. We're back rounding out Locked On Ravens, our live edition, post-draft edition, recapping the Ravens 2024 NFL Draft. Kevin Oestreicher still talk with you here on the show. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in live, engaging in the chat. If you're listening to this after the fact, of course, it's going to be available in audio form and video form there. And if you want to be a part of these live shows, you want to make sure you don't miss them, be sure to turn notifications on YouTube so you can follow along there. 5 days per week of Ravens content, Monday through Friday, plus these bonus shows as well. Now, let's get into some undrafted free agency updates here. Now, we did get the word. We got the breaking news from Blue Beetle earlier in the show that Beau Brade is coming to Baltimore. That's a really good value signing for the Ravens. Brade, I had about a 5th-round grade on when it came to where I would feel comfortable with the Ravens taking him. Can give the Ravens some physicality. He's more of a balanced player overall, and for those who watch him at Maryland, obviously, you know a lot about him, right? But to me, I think for the Ravens, he's a player that can come in and immediately compete because the Ravens need safeties. I mean, Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams are your guys, right? You don't question those, but I'm talking about depth safeties. So to me, when you're talking about Cade, who they drafted in the 7th round, and then you're talking about Beau Brade, I think you can honestly, if you go away from the veteran safety market and you want to go young at safety and you want to keep those two guys, I think Brade is maybe more NFL ready here, but it's going to be interesting because Brade was a guy that I thought was going to go in the 5th round, maybe a lot early. I didn't think he was going to hit undrafted free agency. It was kind of a lesser Ardarius Washington surprise in a way, where I thought Washington was going in like the 3rd round. But then you look around the league and it's like, oh, this guy's falling, this guy's falling, this guy's falling. And then he ends up coming to Baltimore. So Brade is somebody, gives you physicality, gives you some range as well. So I like that signing an undrafted free agency a lot. And I'm trying to pull up the Ravens undrafted free agent spreadsheet so far. I'm scrolling here. All right. So we got Duke defensive lineman Jamoyne Franklin signed as an undrafted free agent, and he's super pumped about it. He's already tweeting out. Alabama offensive lineman Darian Dalcourt, undrafted free agent, apparently signing with the Ravens. Georgia defensive lineman Tremont Wather is signing as an undrafted free agent. And Iowa defensive end Joe Evans is signing as an undrafted free agent. I'm trying to peruse and see if there is anything else going on there. There might be a couple of others. I'm pulling up another tracker really quickly here, but Beau Brade has to be the gem of this undrafted free agent. Sorry, we have a couple of others as well. So yes, Jamoyne Franklin, Lock Haven running back Chris Collier is coming to Baltimore. Another Maryland offensive line, another Maryland player, offensive lineman Corey Bullock is coming to Baltimore. North Carolina Central wide receiver D'Angelo Hardy. Darian Dalcourt, Beau Brade, Kentucky wide receiver Tavion Robinson also is signing with the Ravens. So hefty class already. 8 guys, and the draft ended hour ago, 2 hours ago. So Ravens already getting some work in. With 9 picks, I'm not necessarily expecting, I would maybe expect one guy to make it right now, and that's Beau Brade. But yeah, I see John, thank you. Aaron Wilson reports the Ravens signing Joe Evans. Yep, another one. I see Stat Padford saying Xavier Weaver from Colorado is out there as well. Yeah, I see Joe. A lot of people wanted Bo Limmer. I saw a lot of people wanted Bo Limmer in terms of maybe getting him as the backup center. So I think he went, a couple picks before Baltimore. And that was a guy that a lot of people were kind of pegging in there before the Ravens selected the Michigan State guy. So yeah, I think Bo Limmer was a very heavy heart that he did not come over to Baltimore, unfortunately, there. But I think Baltimore hit with the undrafted class, knowing Beau Brade is coming in. I think that if you want to swap out Cade and Beau Brade, it makes the Ravens end of draft a little bit better for me. but I still think overall you address positions as a need if you're the Ravens, right? I think Weaver. Oh, okay, Xavier Weaver. I see Shinobi saying Weaver got signed to the Cardinals. So Stat Padford, I apologize to have Shinobi break that news to you. Weaver is signed with the Cardinals, apparently. So unfortunate there, but the Ravens, they address needs. Corner was a need for him. They get that in round 1. Offensive line, that was a need. Second round. I think there was no look. If the Ravens didn't draft an offensive lineman in the second round, would have been a little bit of an issue. But they get the offensive lineman in the second round. Then you end up having the edge rusher, which was still a need. Again, a little further down on my list, but you still have the need there in the third. Wide receiver was a need to get that in the fourth. So that's kind of what I was saying on the show, right? We literally every single week we talked about mock drafts, and even throughout the past couple of months, I was saying the big 4: wide receiver, edge, corner, and offensive line. First 4 picks of the Ravens: wide receiver, corner, edge, offensive line, right? They went in. That wasn't in order, obviously, but all 4 needs that I highlighted here and that everybody was kind of looking at, they addressed in the first 4 picks. They double dip at corner with TJ Tampa, double dip on the offensive line. So we're going to see what the Ravens end up doing in undrafted free agency to round it out. But then what I'm really kind of shifting my focus towards now is what are the Ravens going to do in free agency? We're going to have a lot of things going on with obviously the 5th-year option with UDFA. Oh, wait, that's going to be a top of the conversation. We'll probably go live for that decision again once that ends up coming out. Deadline's coming up in a couple of days. But I think that now you look at when the comp pick formula passes, that's when Eric DeCosta loves going to work. So we're going to see what ends up happening there. And I'm trying to scroll through these comments here. I see Brandon's comments: a great draft by the Patience Wizard EDC, or got the talent to keep the mojo in the R hashtag or ball so hard defense. Tampa is my gem of the draft or diamond of the draft, starting right tackle and a wide receiver, running back with a backup center. Hope they get Reisner. So yeah, I think they're going to probably address one more veteran offensive lineman. Maybe they bring a veteran safety, depending on how they feel about what they did in that draft. Veteran wide receiver would surprise me after taking Tez Walker, in my opinion. So that one would be a little bit shocking. But for me, overall, Baltimore B+ draft, in my opinion. You go Nate Wiggins, you go Roger Rosengarten, go Adisa Isaac, you get Tez Walker and TJ Tampa. First 5 picks, I think chef's kiss over there for Eric DeCosta. And then I see Stat Pad for saying we solved all our needs. Besides maybe offensive line, so I'm okay. Would have taken different players. Maybe we did get everything we needed. Yes, a very needs-based draft that also had BPA mixed in there. I think it was a very balanced overall draft from Eric DeCosta. Shinobi saying you think OBJ resigns. There was, again, I'm glad you brought it up, Shinobi, because I don't know where that, I mean, Ramey, who again is very, very popular on Ravens Twitter, commented running back OBJ. OBJ put the, I think was the salute emojis, and everybody's freaking out about it. I think the Tez Walker selection probably ends that dream, if that is a dream for people. The Ravens, the sweet spot for me wide receiver-wise is 6. It does depend how they view Deontay Hardy. I mean, he is a wide receiver. I expect him to have some package. But in my opinion, the Ravens, if they want to give Rashad Bateman the most opportunity, which I think they do, you don't re-sign Odell, right? That's kind of where my focus has been. Of if they're committing this much to Bateman here, they're extending him and they want him to be a guy who can contribute in this offense. If they re-sign Odell and kind of give him the same role, it's going to be that same conversation of, well, who's the 2, who's the 3, what are they going to do there? And I feel like Bateman's looking over his shoulder. So yeah, I see Stat Pat for saying, yeah, it's over. He's probably going to Miami. It's possible he goes there, but I just think the fit is not in Baltimore for him right now. So 2024 draft officially over. Crazy. We'll be back here tomorrow, though, with one more episode. It's going to be a bonus episode for Sunday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. And obviously after that, it's back to our regularly scheduled Monday through Friday programming, unless there's another big thing that happens. But be sure to stay tuned for tomorrow, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be talking more Ravens draft, continuing to recap everything they did. So be sure to subscribe on YouTube here. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. If you're here with us live, follow along in audio form as well. And of course, be sure to subscribe anywhere you're getting your podcast or in video form as well. Coming up, again, that live, well, not live, it's going to be a pre-recorded show coming up tomorrow, 6 a.m. Eastern time. Be sure to stay tuned for that. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.